Welcome back to the Sommelier Series and welcome back to Nederburg. And behind me is a very special piece of not just Nederburg's history but South African wine industry. That is the original title deed from here at Nederburg from 1791 when Philippus Walfart bought the estate and kick-started what has become over 2 centuries of fine South African winemaking. There is such a sense of history to being here at Nederburg, but one of the beauties about wine is that it is always changing and the old and the new tend to come together so nicely, as they do today with the youngest of our sommeliers in the Sommelier Series, that being Katlego Mathobela. Katlego is at Saint, one of the 2 David Higgs superstar restaurants up in Johannesburg. She's fairly early on into her wine journey, but has already got some terrific qualifications, and for me, best of all, has got a wonderful way of identifying what sort of wine would suit what sort of palate. Want to find out what that method is? Well, watch on. Here's Katlego at Saint. Over the course of the Sommelier Series with Nederburg, I find myself in some pretty cool restaurants, some beautiful hotels, some of the most sought-after culinary destinations in the country. But for sheer cool factor, it's hard to get past Saint. I was fortunate enough to host the launch here for David Higgs a few years ago. It's just an enormously awesome restaurant, which is the reason people flock to it. It's part Italian restaurant, part nightclub, part wine cellar, and 100% fun to be part of. And it's not just the food and the wine and the decor, it is also the team and the most important person of the team here. Forget Higgs, forget his other chefs, forget the 26-foot tall bouncers they have at the front door. It is Katlego Mathobela, who I think is top of the list because you, Katlego, have got a really important job. Welcome to one of South Africa's best young sommeliers.
Hi, thank you very much. Thank you.
It's lovely to be able to spend some time with you because you've become, just over the last couple of years, a name that people in the wine industry have started talking about as one of the really exciting young talents in the world of wine, which is great to see because young black women are not usual in this space. It's something that is changing but slowly, so you're a bit of a pioneer. How did the journey to becoming that pioneer start? How did a young girl from Polokwane find herself interested in wine?
So in 2014, I did a course at Rosebank College. So I studied travel and tourism management. So second year into college, I got tired of sitting at home on weekends. So I started doing internships. I did mostly in hospitality, so I had to try and find my feet. So I waitressed for a bit. I was an events coordinator, receptionist. And then when I was a waiter, I just kept being thrown under the bus when it comes to the wine list. So people kept saying, well, you're going to school, you're smart, talk to the white people. Talk to them about wine. And I was like, okay, so since I've been thrown under the bus, might as well learn how to drive the bus. So I started doing my research. Halfway into me being a manager, so at Roots, which is a fine dining restaurant in District, I was a restaurant supervisor there, and that came with being partially into being a sommelier. So in that case, they took me to WSETs level 1, and I figured, oh my God, this is a very interesting side of the world I did not know actually existed. So in that on, I studied a bit further, did my level 2, and wine just became such a big part of my life. I decided to make it a career.
And you've done so magnificently. Was there some family background? Did your parents drink wine? Was wine part of your environment growing up?
Actually, the opposite. My mother hates alcohol. So when I did the Moet and Chandon competition, she was like, oh my God, you are doing wine. I make sure you're not an alcoholic. It's like, no, no, I'm just a food and beverage manager, Mama.
So there was a little bit of pushback initially, but you managed to win everyone around.
Eventually, yeah.
And switch, I spent some time in Polokwane. I remember when I was growing up in Zimbabwe, going to Polokwane was quite exciting because it was the big city.
It's a small little, quite chilled little town. I love it there.
So transitioning from little Polokwane to big Johannesburg?
Very big difference, eh? So when I first came this side, the language barrier was the first thing that kind of flew me off. So I spent most of the time speaking English because no one speaks Pedi in Johannesburg really. Then I just had to learn and learn the culture. And I think what humbled me is that there is so much going on if you don't stay true to what your purpose is when I came here, which is to study and try and find a career that I loved. I would have been easily slipped into the nightlife. And I guess I was just a nerd. I kept reading and I started working early. So it worked to my advantage.
You found yourself in what I suggested earlier is the coolest restaurant in the country. There's just such a vibe to this place. You can rock up at lunchtime on a Monday and the place is pumping. Once you get Friday, Saturday nights, it really is as much nightclub as anything else. How does that shape your work here as a sommelier? How tough is it to work in this sort of environment? How much fun is it to be the sommelier here at Saint?
It's a lot of fun, keeps you on your feet. We have a lot of different clientele. So your lunch is more corporate. So I can get to play around with the wine list, international wines, the French wines, the very, very knowledgeable, the customers that come here. And then dinner time is a little bit of everyone. So you'll find those that just come here for a laid back dinner, nothing too crazy. Then some are just here to show off. So you get to play around a little bit, different personalities. So I think what works for me is that I'm a people's person. So I try and find out what the customer likes, so I can just get a perspective as to their palate, what they're used to. Usually, I will ask if you can drink a beer. Then I can measure, okay, if you drink Castle Light, then you can handle a Shannon. If you can drink a whiskey, then you can handle a Cab Sav. So it's those kind of questions that actually just pave a way for me to be able to figure out what will work for the
That's
customer.
a clever way of doing it. Is that your own formula, your own discovery?
Yeah, it works. Well, 'cause I drink Castle Light and I drink gin quite a bit. So I figured if you have a sensitive palate, if you can't really handle a lemon, then a Sauvignon Blanc is too acidic for you. So it's just those small little things that can actually give you quite a big perspective, but doesn't look like you're trying too hard, but it helps a lot.
The Katlego formula, you should patent that.
Thank you.
Super restaurant. What's been the highlight of your time at Saint so far?
Honestly, the people. So we have a very good team here. We've built quite a good relationship with everyone from the bar to reception to the kitchen. And I think since I've been here since the place opened, we have established that connection, that relationship, that level of respect. That we don't overjump each other's, how can I put this? I don't want to say job descriptions, but hierarchy. And it's just, the environment is great. You get to have a party at the bar and come to the restaurant and have a formal switch. So you're a little bit bipolar here, but it's a lot of fun.
You're clearly doing something you love, which is fantastic, and that adds to your space as a role model. You're an inspirational young black South African woman in an industry that is still very much trying to find its way around transitioning to where it needs to be. How conscious are you of that role?
I'm a little bit scared, but I'm excited. Because for me, coming from such a small little town, I did not even know that wine world existed. And that I'm in now, it gave me such a big perspective to the young ones growing out there, that there's more to life than just what the society has paved as your normal jobs. So I would say that you just need to pave out. I mentor quite a few people in terms of wine here and there. So there's quite a few people in terms of waiters here that I do sessions with once in a while. And just to get them to understand that they cannot just only rely on me as a sommelier. They need to also have a bit of an idea. Should be a case that I'm busy on another table and they need to make a recommendation. So just to give them that bit of confidence and break it down in the small, simplest ways that I can. Like Pinot Noir and cranberry juice, they go together. So, so I just simplify it for them so they can actually also be able to engage in wine conversations. Yeah.
The role of a sommelier is quite wide-ranging. There's a lot more that you have to do than people perhaps realise. What for you is part of your day-to-day job, part of your sommelier role that people might not know you have to do?
It's a lot of stock controlling that goes into it, hey?
That doesn't sound very exciting, does it?
Hey, paperwork never is, but someone has to do it. So usually in the morning, you come in, you check the stock variances. So you go through all the sales on the wine side, bar included, go through orders, check if anything is missing. Well, since we have our fancy Zalto glasses, make sure those are clean, the wine lists are up to standards, and your wine cellar is nicely packed out, everything looks nice in orders, labels are in front. And yeah, just stock controlling is just the biggest part that people do not see. And actually knowing what you're talking about when it comes to wine. So I read up a lot. I'm still planning on doing my level 3 in June. So I'm still studying on that side. And yeah, there's just still so much learning that goes into it. It looks like a glorified job. I get to drink wine every day, but there's quite a lot that also still goes into it.
You're going to help me to become more knowledgeable shortly, because I know you've got some food and wine for me to try out. But before we head over to the kitchen, before we open what I hope is a 750,000 rand bottle of French wine, when you head home, kick your feet up at home, the weekends, what do you like to drink? And then what would be the single greatest wine you've ever had?
So I'm a red wine lover. Well, the red one kind of blends with my blood, so it works out quite well. So usually at home I drink a lot of red wine. So your Cabernets, your Syrahs are like more structured wines. I would say the best red wine I've cracked at home would be... this is very tricky.
The tension is building.
I know. Okay, so normal commercial, I would say the Detroit Lady Fest. It's normal entry level. It's a beautiful, beautiful Bordeaux style, cab driven, nice and entry level, and that is what I can say. Yeah, the best, easy drinking, chilled commercial house red.
So that's what we're having when we're dropping around for a quiet drink with you on a Friday evening.
Might surprise you.
All right, so that might be what is drunk at home by Katlego, but what is drunk here at Saint? We're going to send her off to the kitchen to collect something to eat, and then off to her cellar to find a bottle of wine, and then I shall be dazzled and see if her food and wine can match up with the surrounds here at Saint. You can see the smile on my face. A number of times over the last few months, I've mentioned on social media how I feel Clermont's making some of the nicest wine in Stellenbosch. And I don't know whether you read any of my posts or we just share similar tastes, but you bought something rather special out here for us.
It's one of my favorites.
So talk us through what this is and more importantly, why you've chosen it.
So for the pairing today, I chose the Clermont 2017 Merlot from Stellenbosch. So the winery is right in between Stellenbosch and the Helderberg Mountains. So it's still nice, it's a nice landscape facing south. So the grapes get a nice sea breeze, nice and fruity. And what I like about it is that it has a 6% Malbec and 8% Cabernet Franc. So they sneaked in a few little grapes in there, but it's 86% Merlot. So it still has that nice well-rounded fruit of the Merlot, very pure. A lot of dark fruit comes through, red cherries, and the Malbec gives it that bit of herbaceousness and spiciness, and you get the Franc that just delivers with structure.
And what I do like about this is it's predominantly Merlot. There's a splash of a couple of others, but mostly Merlot. And there's a bit of a snob factor to Merlot often, especially in South Africa, where Merlot, that goes in a blend, it's a bit boring. Whereas Merlot made well is an exceptional wine to drink.
It's true. It can be a little bit underrated. I think over the years, Merlot has been abused. So it lost its way along the way, but Alex really reinvented it and just made a spectacular wine out of it. And yeah, Clermont just has a beautiful space in my heart.
All right, well, I'm going to let you open it and watch very closely because the technique of a sommelier is something I'm always fascinated by. You generally just look at bottles and they tend to open by themselves.
That's why we're here.
I haven't had that Merlot in some time. Oh, look at that colour.
I know.
Wow.
Nice deep ruby. It's a nice intensity to the claws.
Jumps
Jumps right
you'll be
out
having
of it.
some as well.
I needed you to have the first sip though. Being a good host here.
Very gracious of you, Katlego. Thank you. So I know what I'm picking up. I'd like to see what see what you've got out of this and see if I'm getting something similar.
Okay. So for me, the first thing that splashes out is that nice fruity earthiness. So you know when the rain first hits the ground and the berries just splashes out of the glass for me. A lot of plums, red currants for me. Bit of leather comes through quite nicely. Has a nice herbaceous feel to it.
And what I also love about Merlot, without wanting to play down my thoughts earlier of Merlot being a wine that's sometimes dismissed, is that if you are reasonably new to red wine, it's a really nice wine to try because there usually is a nice smooth finish. It's nothing that's too overwhelming.
Yeah, tannins are nicely structured, very smooth after feel, beautiful long finish. You still get that nice bit of red currants and plums right at the back. Finished off with a touch of leather that gives it that nice uplift.
Tell me quickly before we eat this, because I can't hold myself back too long, the pizza ovens, they're just ridiculous. They're brought in from Italy. Right?
Yes, so we brought them in from Napoleon in Italy. So basically we used imported flour, so handmade every day. So we do batches every single day. Nice thin crust. Almost looks like a pancake because it's so nice and moist right at the end. Tomato base, a bit of mozzarella just to top it off. And the one thing that I love about the pizza base is it just charges the pepperoni just a little bit on top. It gives it a very nice smoky feel to the pizza.
Right, here we go.
And all right. You can take it home.
I might take a few of them home. That's just that combination, the tang of the tomato, the tang of the pepperoni, that
The nice
mozzarella,
creaminess of the mozzarella.
and such a perfect base. Let's see if it now changes the nature of my wine at all.
So what you should be feeling is the tannins just balances out with the oiliness of the pepperoni. The mozzarella jumps right out, and just the charness of the pepperoni just uplifts that earthiness of the Merlot. Just gives it a nice jump of smokiness.
Yeah.
Beautiful long finish, and encourages you to just keep eating and drinking.
This is terrific. You give me a beautiful bottle of wine and you give me a great pizza, but more importantly, you give me some wonderful insight into the life of a young sommelier. Where does that life go? What's next? What's on the horizon? What are the wine dreams and ambitions of Katlego?
Well, from here on, it's doing my level 3 and then Court of Masters next year. And then from then on, the ship just keeps sailing. And yeah, just keep growing what Saint has, a beautiful, beautiful place, and just make it into a beautiful gem.
And maybe one day, somewhere down the road, the very first high-end wine bar in Polokwane.
Why not?
Katlego, thank you. Well done on everything you've achieved
Thank
so
you so
far.
much.
But I know it's a journey that's very much just beginning, and I can't wait to see where it goes. But for now, thanks for some great pizza, thanks for some great wine, and most importantly, thanks for some great company.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Cheers.